Friday Night Racing
on Off the Ball.
Brought to you by Horse Racing Ireland. Love every racing moment. Visit hri.ie.
And you're very welcome along. It is a very special Christmas special. Look, we're in Christmas jumpers. Horse racing, remote roadshow with an all-star guest list. Joseph O'Brien, Barry Geraghty, Henry Bromhead, Aine O'Connor, Patrick Mullins, and of course Johnny Ward. Johnny, you're all dressed up, nowhere to go.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie, we did go to the same shop to get the Christmas jumper. I was pretty sure we'd have bought the same one.
It was 50-50. We could have been matching like a proper family at Christmas, Johnny.
Yeah, but it's all for a good cause.
Yeah, so we're dressing up in support of the Irish Cancer Society. We're asking you to wear to care, throw on a Christmas jumper, most importantly, donate. Wear what you want, right? But most importantly, stick your hand in your pocket, or better still, text. The Irish Cancer Society obviously had many of their fundraising campaigns cancelled due to COVID, so all donations will be appreciated. Search for Where to Care on justgiving.com and you'll find links to donate. You can also get involved by text, just to donate €4. Text WHERE, that's WEAR, to 50300. Each text costs €4, and the Irish Cancer Society will get at least a minimum of $360 from that. Christmas means racing.
It does, yeah. On that score as well, I think racing really performed way above it could ever have expected with the Pat Smullen fundraiser sort of over the last, we'll say, year and a half. The money raised was quite incredible, and the more money that we can put to that cause, absolutely the better. But racing people have shown that they're well able to put their hand in their pocket as well.
Yeah, so we're a week out from Christmas, and then on New Year's Day, we're actually going to have a special where we look back on some of the best interviews that we've done over the course of the last year. And obviously, the tributes to Pat Smullen feature very prominently in that. But the amount of money that they raised was absolutely phenomenal. And it's only right that before we get into this, that we do remark on that as well. But there is some top quality racing that we want to talk about over Christmas and the New Year. Leopardstown and Limerick festivals run from the 26th to the 29th, then Punchestown on December 31st, and then Tramore on January the 1st. Loads of Christmas and New Year racing to come. Get into racing at home, and the hashtag is every racing moment. Traditionally, Tramore on New Year's Day would have been off Broadway, and then over the last couple of years, it's been like, well, hang on a second, there might be a Gold Cup winner in the midst.
Yeah, the fact, like Album Photo going for his prep there, Willie Mullins being a creature of habit, having done it the last 2 seasons, it's been brilliant for Tramore. Also the fact that Manella Indo, who we'll talk about, he made his reappearance at Wexford. I think it's fantastic for these smaller provincial tracks. If Album Photo went to Leopardstown, he's kind of another very good horse, whereas for Tramore, it's off the charts. It's obviously very disappointing for them that they can't get what would be their biggest crowds of the season, really, for that. But I think, more than ever, I think the racing over the Christmas is just so badly yearned for this year, because people are going to be watching at home, and it's just going to be excitement from start to finish, really. And I think Champ coming to Leopardstown is something that really excites me.
Well, we'll talk about that with Barry Geraghty a little bit later on. I was just doing some research on this and looking for prices around the various races that are on, and the anti-post section on Odds Checker, the vast majority of the racing is Irish. There's the Welsh National and the Grand National. But after Christmas, there's 2 races, obviously, at Kempton. There's a novices race and there's the King George. But everything else was Irish. Everything else was like these races. And that's, I think, a testament to the depth of, you're looking down, and even passing sports fans will have knowledge, or at least have known the names of some of these horses who are massive prices at this stage.
Absolutely, yeah. And like the novice chase at Limerick, which was memorably won by Faugheen at Sam Cross chief expense last year, they're only grade 1. That has become a massive race. But like anyone who's been to Leopardstown over the Christmas, obviously not this year, but it has a magic to it, and it's magic in terms of the people you meet and having your hot whiskey the first day you have out of the long Christmas day straight into St. Stephen's Day, meeting old friends, but just the quality of the racing. And there's been a lot of debate about like Cheltenham, kind of dominating, almost domineering the whole scene, in that, obviously the Altior not running at last weekend was heavily criticised, but you don't really get that in Ireland at Christmas. People want to run because this is a proper standalone festival at Leopardstown, and if you can win that race at Limerick, you have a seriously good horse.
Right, well, I'm delighted to say our first guest is with us now, Joseph O'Brien. Good afternoon to you, how are you getting on?
Hi lads, how are you?
Good. What's Christmas like in the O'Brien household? What was it like when you were kids? Because I presume there was always racing to be getting ready for.
Yeah, well, I suppose when I was younger, not so much racing to be getting ready for, as really since Istabrack's time we wouldn't have had many runners over the Christmas. But Yeah, always plenty of work to be done, Ger, and plenty of horses to be exercised and all the different things. So, yeah, we it's fairly busy as ever.
That's a really interesting point that you bring up, Isterbrak, straight off, because we were just chatting beforehand. Like, you obviously do have a sizable contingent of national hunt horses. Is there a strain of madness that keeps you busy all year, that you want to make sure that you are still a dual purpose trainer? Or at some point, can you see yourself going, I'm going to have a lie-in in Stephen's Day, and I'm not going to get in the car, and I'm not going to be transporting horses to Limerick and horses to Dublin as well?
Yeah, probably more than a strain, I'd say, would be fair to say. Yeah. But yeah, no, listen, I love love the racing and the jumping, and very lucky to have a nice team of jumpers this year. Probably not the number that we would have had the last couple of years, but we'll still go there with some legitimate chances, hopefully.
When you say not the number, Joseph, was that like on purpose, or is it just cyclical that it's just one of your quieter years?
No, it would have been it's something that we looked at, and probably going forward, the jump string won't be getting any bigger anyway. But it's something that I'd like to continue doing in the years to come, hopefully, but just not to the same extent, maybe.
Does it exercise a different part of your brain? Is there a fundamental difference in how you think about those horses and how you place them, and the long term and the long form relationship that you have with them?
Well, I suppose it's a different discipline, and there's different aspects to it, and the season and the farm book is very different with the obviously novice status and the different things. So there is a different thought process, but ultimately you want to have the horses in good shape and healthy and fit. So the basics are probably the same, but there is different ways of achieving it.
And that is something that you want to keep busy with, as opposed to at some point just becoming a single focus on the flat.
Yeah, I think so, Ger. I really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed the national hunt, and hopefully we can continue to compete at a good level.
It must be a love then. It must be at that stage where, because you could easily just row in and become a predominantly flat and occasional ones, but it must actually be a love of the sport and kind of a sense of joy that you get from being around it.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it, and I suppose there's a great feeling of going to Leopardstown or wherever the bigger meetings are with a chance. It's a different kind of a feeling than going to. There's much more pressure on the flat. You're going there with a possible stallion prospect or something, and there's an awful lot more riding on it sometimes. And the national hunt is very enjoyable, and I've been very lucky to be supported by some of the biggest owners in the sport and have some very, very nice horses, and ultimately that's what it comes down to.
On Stephen's Day, we were talking as well about this. It's a huge day for Limerick because they've got that novices race, and then there's a competing novices race essentially in Leopardstown as well, and everybody seems to enter their best horses for both. When do you actually, and what's the decision making process about deciding where you go or where each of the individual horses will end up?
Well, I would imagine a lot of those decisions will be made at the last minute at 10 to 10 or quarter to 10 on the morning of declaration, when you get an idea of who's going where, and you hear that X horse might have been declared in Leopardstown or vice versa. And then obviously you have to see what other horses the owners might have, and they might want to split them up. So you have to keep your options open, and those decisions you'll find will be made pretty much last minute.
That is something that's quite intriguing as well. Like when you're trying to avoid other horses. So like, say for example, the Real Deal, who like he won 3 or 4 in the bouncer recently, but he was ludicrously well handicapped. And when they run under penalties, it's kind of like other trainers. There's nothing really to gain from running against them, because you might finish second, get a few quid, but go miles up the handicap. How much does that come into your thinking, Joseph, where you do liaise with other trainers or other connections and say what's running where? Like I might be kind of happier avoiding you if possible or whatever.
Yeah, I say there wouldn't be much of trainers really liaising, and you wouldn't really be told if you did that. So
you have to do it in a more roundabout way, maybe.
Well, you might get an idea if some of the top jockeys was going to Limerick or something. You might get an idea that what they might be likely to ride or something, you know. So that's kind of how you get a rough idea. But yeah, and then obviously you go where you think your horse has the best chance. So it's kind of educated guessing, and ultimately you want to go where you think your horse has the best chance, and that's what you're trying to achieve.
How important is race planning for a trainer?
It's very important. It's very important, Johnny. I suppose it's very important. But I suppose a lot of them top horses and top novices kind of plan themselves a lot of the time. It's more the horses and the handicaps and the different races that you might target with them that takes a little bit more thought.
The Melbourne Cup is just a case of turning up and winning it.
Well, I suppose it's very, very hard to have a horse good enough to get into the Melbourne Cup, so it's like those big handicaps, it's hard to get into the races. So, ultimately there's not much hidden ever from the handicapper in them races, because you have to be nearly at the top of your powers to even achieve a place in them.
It's probably time to reassure viewers that we will find out the 2021 Melbourne Cup winner before the show is out. But anyway, he's suitably coy on that.
Are you already planning for next? Is it September or what?
October, yeah.
October, yeah. Like you must be. Obviously, you've got. I mean, I think that was the story this year. Was definitely around about this time, or even a little bit earlier. You were thinking, oh, that's a horse for the Melbourne Cup, in as it was 2020. So, have you different horses in mind for next year for the Melbourne Cup already? Is there?
Yeah, I suppose they kind of plan themselves. Like I said, like those horses that reach that level, you want to be probably into well over 110, probably 112, 13 to get into the race. So like if you can run to that mark up here, you're talking about winning a Group 2 maybe, or being competitive at the top level. So really those horses have to go and prove themselves at this level. At that level through the summer in Ireland, and then if they can achieve a place in the race, then you give them a shot, because the prize money is so good. So really they have to prove themselves through the summer, and there's no big plot. It's try to get a high enough rating to get into the race, and then you take your chances from there.
And at what point do you have that conversation with an owner? Because you obviously want to get them excited about the prospect, but you don't want them to get too carried away. So there's that management as well. It's like, look, this might be a horse that's good enough, and obviously they'll know as well from the how the horse is running. Are they coming to you saying, "Here, listen, come on, this is a Melbourne Cup horse, right?" Or how does that relationship actually work?
Yeah, I suppose a bit of both. You always have to have a dream in this game. It's all about, having something to look forward to and having a big target in the future. But then you have to be realistic as well. But I suppose as well as that, there's a big cost involved in getting a horse to Australia and going through the quarantine and the staff to go with them, and like the round trip is relatively expensive. So you can't just go down and take a chance for the sake of it, So the horse has to prove themselves through the summer to be capable of being worthy of getting a good shot of prize money in the race.
Presuming like normality is resumes next back end or whatever, and you're back in Australia, you're there to cheer on whatever you run. Do you think like the Aussies will treat you with deep reverence, or will they be slightly more maybe what we think of Aussies in sports and kind of go like, could you please just stay at home? We'd like to win our race again.
Yeah, well, listen, we've been very lucky down there, and we've competed with decent horses, and they've picked up a good shot of prize money over the last few years. But I think they're more than happy for everybody to come down and take part in the race, and maybe they might prefer if we finish 4th or 5th, but we'd be paying if they came up here. So but we go down and do our best, and like I say, the prize money is great, and we're looked after very well.
Beautiful diplomacy there.
Absolutely. We were again just having these conversations about the year that it's been and how important it has been for owners, and just again that kind of that jigsaw of getting the racing back, keeping it going, keeping enough people able to be involved in it, and the role that the owners play in that. Could you talk to us a little bit about what that has been like, and how it's, National Hunt needs, it obviously has its big owners, and we know about them, but it also needs its small syndicates and groups of people who come together through a shared sporting love or a connection with schools or whatever, jobs, whatever, however they come. They're the lifeblood, particularly of National Hunt.
Yeah, well, I suppose there's a lot of those people in the flat as well, but in both aspects of the game. But they're the people that have really paid the price this summer. A lot of your bigger owners, maybe don't live in Ireland or wouldn't be seen at the races, only maybe at the bigger meetings. They haven't been affected on a huge scale on the day-to-day running of things. But the smaller syndicates and the smaller fellas that just like to go racing, and that's why they have the horse in training for the day out. They've really been hit hard through the summer and into the autumn, and it's going to be through the winter now as well. And there is people that's the reason they have their horse in training, and they haven't put horses back in training as a result. Because that's why they're in the sport.
Say there was a horse that might have, like, I love going to Dundalk winter nights, and particularly if you own a horse, it's great crack. Like, it mightn't be for everyone, but it's a Friday night. It's lovely to go racing on a Friday night, but that was gone this year, so you didn't have your winter series going to Dundalk. And I think the plus side of this is, and it's the same for sport when it comes back next year and fans can go back to watch their football team or their rugby team, I think you really will appreciate it. That's the one thing. As an owner, once the show is back on the road, hopefully maybe by the spring there'll be some sort of normality. If you can go in, cheer your owner, cheer your horse, and meet other owners and have the crack, you will really appreciate it tenfold compared to the 2020 that we've had.
Yeah, I think that's true, isn't it?
Yeah, there's no doubt about that, Johnny. And I suppose we've been lucky in a way that we've had sport to watch on television, because God forbid if your football and hurling and soccer and all the different sports that have been able to get back going, it's giving people something to look forward to and something to talk about. And luckily horse racing has done a very good job of getting back going and keeping everyone safe.
Racing been amazing in that regard. Like, you've got like a small little segment of the All-Ireland football and hurling and how amazing that's been. But racing's been on the go nearly every day since June, and for the general sanity of racegoers to be able to watch that really has been amazing, because I think it's made lockdown vaguely tolerable for people.
Yeah, and I hope there's going to be a benefit when everybody who started to watch racing and picked it up over that period of time when there was nothing else on actually end up hopefully going and seeing the racing in person. Before we let you go here, will you talk to us a little bit about some of the entries that you have? Is it too early to tell us, or do you have an idea yet where some of your more fancied horses will end up over Christmas?
Yeah, we would have a rough idea. I suppose Fakir Dudari was second on his comeback run in Ace a couple of weeks ago. He'll probably go to Leopardstown. There's a chance he might run in the 3 mile race, I'd say. Stepping up and trip is something we've been looking forward to doing with him at some stage. And
that's very interesting, Joseph. Will he stay?
So listen, I don't know, Johnny. We always saw him as a horse that would be better when he went up in distance, but he'd probably in an ideal world like to be going up to 2.5, but he didn't have that option, so in Grade 1 company. So he might go there, and it'll be interesting to see how he goes. We have Larishberg there. He had his comeback run. He got a bit tired in Punchestown, but Mark was happy that he showed enough enthusiasm through the race, and he might go to the 2 mile race at Leopardstown. Then we have a few novices that will get split up in different places too.
Larishberg, how much ability do you think he retains? Because it was just it was so unfortunate what happened to him. He was going into the Arkle with such an obvious chance, lovely progressive profile, and then obviously he got injured.
Yeah, well, I suppose I didn't see much of the race the last day, Johnny.
Yeah, no more than the rest of us,
yeah. But Mark was very happy with him through the race. He said he jumped well and felt good, and just got a bit tired with him. And the ground was quite heavy. He's not a heavy ground horse really. So he'll go to Leopardstown and what probably will be nicer ground, and I suppose we'll find out more then, But we'd be hopeful that he could get back to somewhere close to his best.
How do you value how do you integrate the knowledge that you get from how the horse performs at Leopardstown with your plans for Cheltenham? Does it have significant impact on what you're going to do with the horse in March if it performs above or below what your expectations are at Christmas?
Yeah, well, I suppose for sure, Jared, the horses have to perform well or up to scratch or up to at least where you think they will perform to in order to even consider going to Cheltenham, because I mean that's ultimately whatever happens in Cheltenham, that's the most difficult place of all to win. So they have to perform well, or perform at least up to expectations, and then you can, a lot of horses might go straight to Cheltenham. Some might have one run maybe in the Dublin Racing Festival somewhere around then before they go, but they have to perform up to scratch, and unless you have an excuse after the race, but they really have to perform well.
Right, so I mean, it's kind of the old sports cliche of taking each race on its merits, but actually try and win now, try and win again, or perform really well in the Dublin Racing Festival, and then you're set up for Cheltenham, as opposed to this long form training of like only peaking for Cheltenham.
Yeah, well, I suppose, like I said earlier on as well, with the handicaps and that, it's so hard to get into those races nowadays. Like the spread of from the top weight to the bottom weight of horses getting 2 stone off of the top weight, those days are kind of gone, and the might only be 7 or 10 pounds the whole spread of the handicap. So it's very hard to get into those races, let alone try and have a few pounds up your sleeve. So that's really what people are trying to achieve, is to get the horse rated high enough to get into the race. And then when you can do that, then you can aim at target Cheltenham then from there,
I think what's fascinating as well, that horse he's talking about stepping up and trip, that opens up so many options if you're thinking Gold Cup potentially. Like, and I know it's a long way away, Joseph, but like if a horse stays and reveals himself to be even better over 3 miles, you have to get a bit excited, because obviously he's plenty of toe.
Yeah, and the race looks very good. So even if he ran respectable in it, if he could run respectable in that race, there would be, you have the Ryanair there as well, Johnny. So
absolutely, yeah.
It opens up a lot of options to him. It opens up a lot of options to him if he can perform well in a race like that. And
the obvious question is, anything for Dundalk on Friday night?
I have a few runners in Dundalk on Friday. I'll see what I have a nice 2-year-old having his first run by Warfront. He's been given a wide draw, but we're hoping he could run well.
Yes, we'll look out for him.
Very good. And do the horses get any special treatment on Christmas morning? Do they know it's Christmas? Is there like a no running today? Or is it what's that like?
Yeah, well, they won't obviously exercise, but unless Santi comes and drops them off something, there won't be anything too special anyway.
How's Johnny Murphy keeping? You're keeping him sweet anyway.
Yeah, going good. The lads the Rugby and Racing Syndicate had a great year and plenty of winners, and looking forward to next year now.
Well, listen, you had a great year yourself. Thanks a million for joining us. Cheers. Happy Christmas.
Happy Christmas, Jules. There is one of the horses that he acquired. I think it was the horse that he ended up winning 3 races, G-Rex, I think. Johnny Murphy famously acquired him, hung over getting a breakfast roll at some various place, and he kind of met the connections of the horse and ended up buying him, and worked out great. Yeah,
3 winners for the Rugby and Racing Syndicate. It's been a good year for some of the syndicates that we've had on. So, like we were joking about the Melbourne Cup there, but to put some context on winning 2 Melbourne Cups, this guy's pretty good.
Well, absolutely bonkers. Like when Dermot Well did it, it was totally unheard of, and I'd say a lot of Aussies, without being arrogant, would have just said there's absolutely no chance of a Northern Hemisphere horse coming here and winning this race, because just the logistics of it are, like, I suppose in rugby parlance, like rugby, Ireland going down to the Southern Hemisphere and beating like the Kiwis or beating the Aussies or beating South Africa on their turf is really, really difficult. And it's not unlike that in some respects, but it's all the quarantine and the fact that the race is ludicrously competitive as it is. But Irish trainers have just like an insanely good record in recent years. Tony Martin has gone down there, nearly won it. Willie Mullins is very close on winning it. Obviously Aidan has had, luck in the race as well, and Dermot Weld in the past, or Aidan has had runners who've run well in the race. But for Joseph to do it, and I think when Rekindling won it as a 3-year-old, it was kind of like, he was almost like rewriting the rule book here, because it was just you could now run a 3-year-old who's unexposed in the race and he might have something in hand. With Twilight Payment, you'll never get a more likeable horse than him on the flat, and it was an outstanding achievement. But like, Joseph will become one of the best known Irish people in Australia very quickly, the way he's going, because that race literally does stop a nation. It's not like, I don't know if we even have a comparable race in Ireland. That it's, if you have to see it to believe it over there, and Joseph has won it twice as a nipper, so it's insane really.
And you begin to think about where that career can go and where it's going to take him, and whatever records his dad has set, they're there to be broken.
Well, what you were asking him there, and I think that is quite telling, he's probably reflective of the fact that he can't necessarily burn the candle both ends to be the best flat trainer that he can be. And to be the best flat trainer that he can be, he wants to be winning the Derby and he wants to be winning classics.
Yeah.
He hasn't won that many of them yet, and that's only a matter of time.
Only as a jockey.
Only as a jockey, yeah. So he probably, and I imagine that's not unrelated because he got a flavour for riding St. Nicholas Abbey in the Breeders' Cup, and those big days are really the races that you want to win. And it's a cliche, but they're the days that set you apart, because he trains winners every day of the week. But maybe he's thinking, I just need, because to delegate the responsibility, he needs a really good team, but to have the amount of jumpers that he's had is extremely difficult, and that's why nobody really tries it.
Well, that's the point that I was making. You're not doing that at that stage with the success that he's already had. He's not doing it for money anymore. That has to be because you actually really enjoy the culture and you enjoy being a representative of that.
Yeah, and he would have remembered those days, where his dad was associated with Isabrak, and he's a fairly long and successful relationship with JP McManus, who loves Cheltenham winners and all that. So he would have derived great enjoyment out of that. The likes of Ed Wolf, Larishberg is a very good horse as well. Tower Bridge, winning big races. So
Fakir
it's special as well. Yeah, Fakir Darius is going to be very, very interesting. Presuming him stepping up in trip was, I have to say, it was news to me now. It's a question mark, but these are the exciting races, because that's a completely different test for. It's almost like a hurler going to play football, because 2 miles and 3 miles completely different, totally different kettle of fish, and it'll be interesting. He was maybe comprehensively enough beaten by Notebook, but it wasn't a bad run, and. If he thinks he obviously thinks there's a good chance he will stay, because he wouldn't be running him in it otherwise.
So is that the chase on the 27th? Paddy's Rewards Club chase.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, so he's
against Chacun Poursuis, Notebook.
I think he's not going to run in that race. Sorry,
Right, that's not that race.
He's not. I think he's going to run Larishberg in that race. So if I heard correctly, I imagine he might be running in the Savills chase, which is interesting because that's what he was talking about, stepping up in trip.
Okay,
that would be the obvious race. Now, what that means in terms of champ running or not, I'd say the great BJ Geraghty might have his ear to the ground on that one, but. That is shaping up to be one hell of a race.
He's not priced in that race at the moment.
No.
33s.
You get worse bets than that, I'm telling you, because this is if he stays, he has serious speed for that level.
That's on the Monday to the 28th.
Yeah. You see 33 to 1 there?
Yeah, that's on odds checker before I came on. So I printed it, obviously. Maybe the news will have broken in the meantime.
Nothing better than these, when you have these previews and some lad gives you a piece of, and you see the Cheltenham preview nights where, Eddie O'Leary might say famously last year, he gave Milan native for the handicap, as did Gordon Elliott, and you can just frantically see people right onto their phone looking at odds and basically ignoring the person beside them, even if he or she is asking you, do you want me to go to the bar? Shut up for a minute, I want to see what this is. 25 to 1, bang bang bang, and then you've a lovely story later when it all works out, and sometimes it does.
Yeah, well, hopefully that's a good bit of information for you there. So, but it's also interesting to see the evolution of a horse, and it happens where the decision seems to have been made relatively recently that actually this is the next stage of this horse's career. And I can imagine, I can see how if you're a chess grandmaster, that aspect of racing is something that your brain looks at and goes, I really like this, I really enjoy that aspect of it.
It's absolutely remarkable that you said chess grandmaster, because he's a horse that Joseph trained for the Rugby and Racing Syndicate.
Right, okay.
Yeah, there you go. I think with that horse, he was well backed at Naas, and Notebook was sent off a price that made no sense to me. He was sent off 7-2, despite the fact that he was 5-2 favourite for the Arkle last year. This was like a 4-runner race against Cashback, Jingle and Fakir. And Fakir was very well backed and ultimately was quite well beaten by Notebook. So the implication is that, well, if he's going to be if he's going to come up short to that extent at 2 miles, we have to try something else here, because we're not necessarily losing faith in the horse. You will get much worse 33 to 1 shots than that.
Right, and at the mention of champ, now is a good time to bring in Barry Geraghty. Barry, happy Christmas to you. How are you getting on?
I'm very good, Ger. How are you?
Yeah, good. Johnny's like a kid on Christmas morning, dying to ask you about champ and what the prospects of another famous champ victory is.
Yeah, and the fact that he might be taking on Fakir Darius if he goes to Leopardstown, the same colours. Fascinating horse, just in the whole Gold Cup picture, Barry.
Oh, it definitely is. And there's every chance he'd come over. But I suppose we'll just have to wait and see. But it's an ultra competitive race, and obviously all the Sun Lions farmers there with Allaho and Manila Indo.
If he were to run at Leopardstown, how would the track suit him?
Oh, it'd suit him well. It would, sure. He has a slight preference for left-handed, and a stiff track. Kempton wouldn't be his place, and he's been good around Newbury, he's been good around Cheltenham, so he wants a stiffer track, and left-handed is probably slightly better than going right-handed. So it's a good option for him.
And of all your kind of Christmas races that you're going to enjoy or otherwise, is that the one you'd be like, I wouldn't mind being there?
Yeah, you could say that, but it's not having that effect on me as much as I thought. Now, I sat at home watching Epatante in the fight in fifth, and I came away after watching the race, and it was a great performance. And my wife Paula said, "Well, how was that? As in, how did you feel?" And it was only then I said, "Actually, no, it's fine. I never thought for a second, oh, I'd love to be there." So I think I've moved on.
That was quick.
I know, but it's been a strange year with all the lockdown. It's 9 months ago since I finished. So, it's a time to sit and digest and take it on board, but it's sitting comfortably. So I think I was ready for it.
I'd say as well, if it had been, if Christmas was mad surging crowds in Leopardstown and at Kempton, and you were sitting watching it going, there's horses that I know I was going to be on, maybe it might have been more difficult, but probably this is, of all the times to call it a day, your timing was perfect.
There's no doubt. It's made it easier. Watching Galway with no crowds, no atmosphere, no buzz, and Galway being, the highlight of the summer, if you like. So all those meetings have been much easier to watch, and it's good racing, but it hasn't got the same buzz that there was. So it's probably made it easier.
When you mentioned the crowds, I can't but think of a particular Barry Geraghty Christmas race. The same day, I think Archibald won the Christmas the Kempton Hurdle, but you rode Kicking King, and did a lad dressed as Santa Claus kind of try and cross the track near the finishing line or something in the middle of the race?
He had a jumper just like yours, Johnny. He ran straight across the front.
Both of us making a show of ourselves, but yeah.
He was going to come off worse if we were to have a little collision. So thankfully for him, he got out of the way in time.
What's that meeting like? Because I've never been to Kempton King George Day, and I felt very sorry for them with the crowd situation. Obviously, with London going into that level of lockdown, they kind of Kempton was always going to fall. But it must be a great meeting to be a part of when you've proper, I suppose, when you're riding a proper horse like that.
Oh, definitely. It's a great buzz. I went there last year. I rode footpad for Willie in the King George. He was well beaten in the end, but he had a chance. And Epatante won the Christmas Hurdle. It's a great buzz, and it's, Christmas Day, you tend to just start zoning out at about 3 or 4 o'clock. You get a little bit detached from all that's going on, and your head starts drifting towards Kempton or be it Leopardstown. But it's a great meeting. Like Leopardstown though, Leopardstown was, as a kid, I'm going there and have always loved it. And there's obviously you won't have the crowds this year, but it's the first really big one.
What have you been up to anyway?
I'm in my gear just after riding work for Gordon there now, so I came in from that to so I'm enjoying that. I just do that once or twice a week, just locally, Colin Magner's, which is only 10 minutes or less down the road from me, which is handy. So I have some nice youngsters as well. I've been working away with those. I've been busy promoting my book through Colours, which is going nicely. So it's spending time at home as well, because I've been a part-time dad for the last 12 or 15 years. Yeah,
you've strategically placed the book over your shoulder. I was going to do a Father Ted like gag and say there's a bookmark on page 7 there, but I actually haven't started reading it yet, so it's on my to-do list. Getting great reviews. I was talking to a few lads who have read it, and you must be delighted with the reaction. I
am, yeah. I'm delighted with how the book turned out. I knew when it went out, we're really happy with it. Couldn't have, done any more, given it any more. We got it out, everything that I wanted, So and it's only when you go through it that you start realizing, that where the story is, and you start reliving things and going into detail, and because so much stuff gets blocked out of your mind, especially the bad days. But she said, no, it was great, and it's going well, and it seems to be well received.
Did that help with the whole retirement process as well? That you can't just, in a book, you can't just go celebration. There has to be a bit of drama. There has to be a bit of jeopardy. You have to relive those bad days. And it's like, actually, you know what? I don't really want to volunteer for the bad days. The great days were sensational, but in the life of a sportsman, there's a lot of losing.
There is, yeah, but losing, I never had a problem losing. You know, you can finish second and give the perfect ride and run a great race. You can ride the winner and give a shocker. So it's, you know, you have to be happy. Annabelle Fly was second to Albin Photo in the Gold Cup. Brilliant run. Couldn't have got another ounce out of him. So you take defeat. You have to take defeat. Well, it was the injuries when reading through the first draft, and I knew I was going to retire that spring. So it was early March or February, and I'm reading through the draft and going through the injuries thinking, yeah, it's probably about time to walk away now. So it probably, in a way, I'd say it's given good closure.
It's interesting as well. Like, I'm not just the whole. This shouldn't be obviously anywhere near an issue with racing, but just the whole rugby and the concussion thing. Do you get worried, like, when you think back, what did I put my body through, and like will I be grand going forward, and how lucky I am to get out in one piece?
Well, that seemed okay, reasonably okay. Probably other people would say different, but yeah. I'm a good enough shape, I think. But sure, I wouldn't swap a day of it. I loved it. It was brilliant. It was, young lads grow up wanting to be footballers, wanting to be golfers, rugby players, whatever. I wanted to be a jockey from the age of 11 or 12, and even probably younger. You dreamt of it. So no, I lived the dream and I loved it. I wouldn't swap a day. I'd take all the bad ones for all the good ones.
I think that what's actually quite strange is that if you have that notion of your parents, like, would you let your kids, would you like him or her to be a jockey? Racing actually doesn't look the worst option at the moment in terms of, like, and there's so much on safety in terms of the helmets and all that.
Yeah.
And in fairness, Barry, that's probably something that you did see through your career. The difference between when you started and when you finished in terms of diet, physical education, and just the strength of the material that you're wearing to keep you safe.
Oh, everything improved. Equipment improved, but the change in lifestyle, diet, well-being. We rode to be much older. There was very few got to 40 when I was starting out. 35 was an old man in the weigh room then, 20 years ago. So it has all evolved, and as you say, equipment, everything. So things are moving forward the whole time. But it's field sport, and no matter what field sport you're in, there's an element of risk for anyone who takes part.
The one thing that has happened, you talk about there about all sports getting better, the Maldini project that allowed Maldini play until he was about 40, that science started to come in. At the end of your career, you really benefited from that. You won massive races because you were able to retain enough fitness that it wasn't a significant issue, but you had the experience to be able to work with horses that lesser experienced jockeys wouldn't have been able to get to the finish line. And, I'll never forget the explainer you gave to us after Cheltenham this year. Like, what a way to get to go out. Almost no sports people get to pick a time where you've just had a moment of everything coalescing, your knowledge, your fitness, the occasion, and to go out at that point is it's a phenomenal achievement, really, to be able to manage that.
Yeah, it wasn't by choice, the timing. I knew it was that spring, but obviously with the way everything happened with COVID and racing shut down, and looking back on it, you couldn't ask for a better way to finish, because otherwise it was going to be Farias at Punchestown, which would have been brilliant. But Cheltenham is obviously the Olympics for us every year, and they've had such a good week. You couldn't ask for a better way to sign off. And I'd been through the mills with everything over the years, and it's nice to finish. And even when I announced my retirement, there was some journalists saying to me they didn't see it coming, and I was thinking, well, you'd seen it coming for a few years before that. So it was nice. It was nice to surprise them.
Was that Johnny by any chance?
No, I wasn't. I fairly called Ruby's, but
you did, yeah. He wasn't very happy that night.
In fairness, I don't think you should underestimate getting out. Like, if not alive, getting out in one piece.
Oh, it's incredible.
Like, it was like Gary Rogers this year, his fellow Meath man. Like, he basically went out after playing in a cup final against Arsenal, and I was kind of like, this is a good time to. As opposed to, you don't want, Barry, I presume, where you know yourself you're just not the jockey you were, and you've kind of overstayed your welcome to a degree.
Well, that's it, yeah, but that wasn't. I never felt that way. I felt my riding was always, good enough that I didn't feel I was doing anything wrong, if you like. But with the amount of injury I'd had, you're kind of thinking, do you know what? Maybe this is time to because you took it for granted you get out in one piece, but it's not necessarily the case. So, I felt the time was right. How much more do you want to win? At what risk? At what cost?
Yeah, and the reward all of a sudden becomes less at this stage, having already won everything. The Irish Racing Hero Award at the HRI Awards was this week as well. And look, I know you don't get into this for individual awards, but at the end of a career, something like that where the entire racing industry comes together and it's a celebration of you and your life and your family and your kids are just about old enough to fully appreciate it, that must be a little bit special too.
Oh, definitely. It was lovely. And they caught me by surprise. I was doing the interview. It was obviously pre-recorded and I'm chatting away to Gary and next thing the kids are coming in and I'm thinking, oh, don't come in the middle of the interview. But obviously they're coming in with the trophy. And it was brilliant. It was brilliant to have the kids involved. And it was a brilliant show because to see Tony Mullins, Eugene O'Sullivan and Maxine O'Sullivan and the emotion and what it meant and everything, I thought for the times we're in, HRI did a brilliant job putting that together.
Yeah, I think the Tony Mullins one was like he saw Paddy Keogh coming for the corner of his eye and he's like, what in the name of Jesus? I'm trying to do an interview here, Paddy. I was like, it's actually part of the sound. I suppose when you've been at those awards down the years, it is actually quite special to win something like that.
It is, and it's something I probably wouldn't have given any thought to, and that's why they caught me on the hop because I wasn't expecting anything. I was doing an interview about the book as far as I knew. But yeah, no, it was lovely, a really nice award, and it's a nice way because it's probably I'm on the lap of honour, so I'm collecting a few awards now that I won't be collecting anymore. So it is nice, and as I said, it was lovely to have the kids involved, which was brilliant, and it was a good surprise and good fun.
Speaking of having the kids involved, Christmas Day at 3:00 this year, you won't be allowed to tune out.
Yeah,
and be like
very
no.
candid there, to be fair.
Yeah, like no, sorry, you're gonna have to sit through Chitty Chitty Bang Bang or whatever it is with the box of Rolos.
Yeah, but I look forward to it. I really do because racing has been brilliant, but there's a big change in pace and lifestyle, and I'm enjoying that because I'm 41. There's no point kidding yourself. You can be Benjamin Button and try and go on forever, but there comes a time when it's good to step away and enjoy the slower pace.
Are you still poring over races and form and like just as a matter of kind of habit, checking stuff?
No, not as much. I'm keeping an eye on everything. I'm working with At the Race, and we're doing a Off the Fence is the program we're doing online, and it's going really well. So I'm obviously keeping an eye on everything for that. But I'm writing a bit of work for Garden as well, which is always something that interests me. Riding a nice horse, and I sat in a few nice horses this morning. I've been sitting on some all through the second or the early winter, if you like, which is good. That interests me. So I love being involved, but I'm enjoying the pace it's at.
We'll see how he compares Keith Donoghue with Cheltenham kind of tips, because Keith is top notch. But I suppose one of my last questions for you maybe is, do you reflect on the fact that you were part of an incredible golden generation when you think McCoy, Carberry, yourself, Russell, Walsh, that five for a start? This was it was more or less when I got into racing actually, and maybe I took it for granted a bit as well. But do you reflect now when you think, holy, that was a hell of a bunch of jockeys?
It was, but I think all generations have that. Like, you have John Frankham, Tommy Carberry, John Joe O'Neill, Tommy Carmody, great riders. So you have it, but there was, I suppose, the level of success maybe in Cheltenham, myself, Ruby, AP, Davies had as well. So you could say that, but you kind of, it becomes the norm of what you're working in. So you don't think anything different. It's only in time when, see who else rides as many winners as others did in Cheltenham. So it's the show moves on, and there's some great riders as well. So it's I think there's lots of good quality. But we were a good bunch, and we always got on great and had good fun and enjoyed it. So it was always a good laugh.
I can almost feel them giving out to me about mentioning Cheltenham, because this is, after all, like Irish Racing Over Christmas show. Barry, your Christmas nap.
Christmas nap. The one I'm looking forward to seeing is St. Roy. I think he'll put the record straight. He obviously ran a cracker in the Morgiana, pulled hard. You'd like to think if he relaxes, I think he's a really good horse, and I'd like to think he can put the record straight.
Well, listen, good stuff, Barry. Happy Christmas. Enjoy doing the dishes on Christmas Day for the first time ever.
I'm not sure they'll get me doing dishes.
Oh, look, everybody has to pitch in. Good stuff. Happy Christmas, and enjoy the race. And it's Barry Geraghty there.
Thanks, Barry.
A legend of the game, and now obviously happily retired, it turns out, and taken well to it. There was none of that kind of, I need the competition. It was like, yeah, I'm enjoying this.
Yeah, not everyone will be like that. I think the fact that he's able to ride work at Gordon's, it's a bit of a tease in respect, because you are riding serious horse, but you're only riding them work. But it does keep him kind of involved, and it is actually very important. It's like, Brian Clough was a great man manager, but that team needed a lot of training as well, and the training at home is seriously important. And the valuable input that the likes of he and Keith Donoghue will give Gordon Elliott could be that extra 1% in winning and not winning at Cheltenham, in that this horse needs holding on to. I don't think this horse is coming right yet, so on and so forth. And like having Geraghty as part of Gordon's team is, it's
a cheat code, and in some ways,
yeah,
it's real. Wow, this is extra information that you're getting.
When you think in an average morning, presuming they're all fit, which isn't always the case, you might have Davy Russell, might even have Brian Cooper, Jack Kennedy, Keith Donoghue, Barry Geraghty, riding work.
It's not bad. No, it's not. Right, some top quality racing coming your way over Christmas and the New Year. The Leopardstown and Limerick Christmas festivals, they both run from Stephen's Day through to the 29th. We're going to be getting into some of the races a little bit later on as well. Then, of course, Punchestown on New Year's Eve, December 31st. And then New Year's Day, it is Tremor on January the 1st. With loads of Christmas and New Year racing coming up. Get into racing at home. And the hashtag is every racing moment. Right, and the guests just keep coming here on our Christmas racing special with HRI. Obviously, we stream this live every Friday afternoon at 3 o'clock on all of our social channels, and then again on News Talk that Friday evening. I'm delighted to say back on the show very quickly with us is Henry de Bromhead. Henry, last time we were chatting to you, you were I would say very hopeful / a little bit anxious about Honeysuckle, who then went out and put on a great performance. So every time you come on here, it's I'd like to think we're a lucky charm for you.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. We'll keep thinking that way for the moment. And yeah, we're delighted with her. She won. She got it done. Probably, obviously not as impressively as she has done in other races, but great to do it, and delighted with her.
So what's your assessment of a situation like that where you think there's still a little bit more? Is that the sign of a great horse in like in team sports when a team can win but isn't playing to its full capacity? Is it the same in horse racing, or would you be concerned that the performance wasn't at the level you were hoping it was to be at? I'm maybe screwing up the subtleties of this question a little bit, but do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes you have to win ugly, and she showed a real will to win, which is great. Rachel said she took a little blow after the third last, so fitness-wise she'll improve plenty. And probably a little bit ring rusty. Last year, she had a run in a lesser conditions race early November. We went without that this year, and she probably got me a little bit out of trouble as well, in fairness to her, her class. Yeah,
I think she's a fascinating story, because when he was on the show, he did mention the fact that what I thought was really interesting, Henry, was the fact that her mentality has completely changed. She was like a girl who went to secondary school and didn't know anyone, and she was basically the coolest kid in school after 6 months, and she knew it.
Yeah, that's it. It's very true. Yeah, absolutely. And she got the job done, and that was kind of it.
She's kind of racing like that as well, isn't she? In that, like, she's kind of almost like she's saying at the end of her races, "I'm in charge here. I know what I'm doing." Yeah,
absolutely. The way they quickened down to the second last, like, she picked up really well, and they'd gone no gallop, obviously, or they hadn't. Like I say, she won, and I suppose sometimes you just have to do it that way. And she got it done.
If there's one thing you could say about her, she's avoided some very good horses so far because of, just the way the race have panned out, but that won't be the case at Christmas.
She won't run at Christmas, but in February, in the Irish Champion Hurdle, I don't know. Benny de Dieu is a pretty good mare. So, anything she's come up against, she's beaten. And, she keeps doing it. So hopefully that'll continue.
And you seem to be implying that she will come on a bit for February.
I think so. Yeah. I think so. She, as I say, she took a blow there just after the third last. So fitness wise, she will. Yeah. She just obviously is taking a little bit more than she was as she's getting older.
We were talking a little bit earlier on about the chess that you guys have to play to plot the course to create the opportunities for victory and the conditions for victory. That's like simultaneously you're making sure the horse's fitness is at the right level for that. Around this time of year, when the depth in all these races is so spectacular, it must get even harder to pick the races that you need to go for, and that also harder to turn down the opportunities given the pots are so big.
Yeah, it would. Yeah, certainly at this time of year, you're always looking towards the spring. There's such, obviously there's Cheltenham, Aintree, Punchestown, Fairyhouse, all those great festivals in the spring. So you're trying not to overdo it for your first run, but then with her record as well, you're trying to keep that intact. So it is, it's just trying to get the balance right. And like I say, she probably got me out of trouble a little bit, in fairness to her, the other day.
And in terms of the rest of what you have at the moment, do you know yet exactly what horses will run at over the course of what's going to happen at Leopardstown and also at Limerick?
Yeah, we the entries start closing tomorrow, so I'd have a fair idea. Various things, ground and what horses go where, you'll fine tune near the time. So you'll do the bulk of your entries tomorrow and Monday. I think tomorrow is for the first 2 days, so that's the 26th, 27th at both meetings, and then Monday is the second 2 days. So we'll do the entries. You probably would double up on various races, and then obviously near the time you can fine tune it. So I've probably gone through 50% of them now, and we'll finish it off this afternoon, basically, as to where they'll all be going, and entered anyhow.
Just where Brian was telling us, like, essentially the last 10 minutes when you get a whisper of which horse is declared for which race, that you can suddenly start seeing some of the changes be happening as everybody tries to give their horse the best chance of winning.
Very much so, yeah, absolutely. And it's hard it's hard to decide. Looking at entries, everything's entered all over the place. And it's amazing on a declaration morning how things suddenly between 9:30 and 10, how they can unfold so much. So you have to be watching it the whole time.
Suppose, on that then, like you obviously have you have two very good staying chasers in Monley and Manila Indo, and to have that option of potentially having a runner in both the big kind of staying races, obviously including the King George. What is your update on those?
So Monolly, we're planning to go to Campton for the King George. So that's his aim at the moment. And then Manila Indo will go to the Savills Chase. At the moment. A Plutard is in that as well. I think it's highly likely or probable we'll step him up to 3 miles and try him, although he won the 2 mile last year. Just said we'd like to see him over 3. Our hands are tied a little bit because he seems far better on a left-handed track, so options are limited with him. So he'll probably go for the Savills Chase, and I'd imagine Balco de Flo will go for that as well. So we should have 3 in that, and hopefully Monolly at Campton if everything stays right.
We're getting all the updates today because that race now, like Joseph, before you were on, Henry, was talking about running Fakir Dudaris in that race as well. And the more you look at it, I mean, presuming Champ comes over, who obviously beat you in the RSA Chase, but I would argue that form could well be reversed. Presenting Percy, he ain't that bad either. Delta Work is only 4th favourite in the betting. Then you've Kemboy, the Storyteller, Alaho, Battle Over Doyen, who, whether he runs or not, but what a race that's shaping up to be.
Absolutely, yeah, savage, yeah.
And you have the favourites.
Which is great, yeah. But I mean, Alaho we only just finished in front of him with Champ flashing past us. So, I mean, just the strength and depth is just ridiculous. Is
he a better horse this year? Like, I know, I think just the race kind of went against him a bit in the RSA Chase, but just his 2 performances this year, I thought at Wexford he was extraordinary because he was taking on a race fit Cheltenham winner, who really locked horns with him up top, pestered him for the lead, and he absolutely laughed at him. And then in Navan, maybe briefly turning in, you're like, what's he going to find here against another good horse? And he ends up winning by a street.
Yeah, no, he's been really good. Yeah, I suppose he only went to the RSA on the back of 2 runs, you know, so that's why we were conscious to be a bit busier with him this year up till Christmas. Look, he's stepping out of novice company. None of us know like where the novices are against the more established lads. So we'll see. You know, he's still rated. What is he? I think he's 165. He's still rated below a lot of the horses that are behind him in the betting, which would be obviously normal for a novice. But so yeah, like this is a big step. This is his first real test out of novice company.
Do you automatically have an instinct in your head or an expectation on the basis of the novice career how well they're going to do and also how well they're doing at home? So, I mean, I'm not asking you to tell us where you think the ceiling for the horse is, but in your heads, when you have a horse like this who is so spectacularly successful at this stage, you must allow yourself to dream a little bit, or is it very functional? It's like, okay, hit some benchmarks along the way, and then I will permit myself to dream.
Yeah, I don't know about dreaming. You're probably talking to the wrong fellow about dreaming. I kind of just try and get them to do the job, and until I see it, I probably don't believe it, to be honest. So when you get into 160, 170 horses, I'm not sure if anyone really knows where they all are then. Obviously, there's can be a real standout now and again, but I don't think anyone really knows.
As in, they're all so good they can beat each other on any day. Is that the
exactly? Yeah, exactly. I don't even. Like that. I think the handicapper is never too far wrong. In fairness, you know, on ratings and even up around this level, I think they, you know, it can change, as you say, race by race conditions. You know, they're all high class horses, and better ground might suit one better on the day, the way the races run, whatever. That, you know, there's so many variables that could suit a certain horse on the day.
And with all due respect to the King George, there's way more depth to the race at Leopardstown, and I don't mind saying that, because you look at some of the horses that are 4th and 5th in the betting, they wouldn't be mapped at Leopardstown to my mind. Which brings me to Monaghan, because you'd have to think he'd have an each way chance. I see he's like 8 or 9 to 1 here, and you know, if he runs his race, he's going to be in the first 3, I would have thought.
Yeah, I'd hope so. Yeah, absolutely. Think he should love it over there, and the track should suit him. Plenty of jumping, and we were going last year, and then we probably his first run was a bit deflating, similar to this year, but we're kind of used to it at this stage, and then just with all the talk of the horses over there and what we were going to be up against, we decided to veer it and go to the Savills Chase, which probably looked a harder race in the end. Yeah, we're there this year. Nothing's going to put us off. We're going, and that's it. So yeah, looking forward to seeing him. He's a brilliant horse, and he's probably been unfortunate not to win more Grade 1s than he has. He's only beaten a few lengths in the Gold Cup in March. He seems in great form now. He seems to just take his first run nowadays, and that's fine. Yeah, so roll the dice and see.
Do you know who likely rides him?
I think Rachel will go. Yeah, I think Rachel, she's more, without saying 100%, but highly likely she'll go. Yeah, the Grade 1.
There's a pointer to itself. She's not going to be in Leopardstown on the 26th if Henry's prediction's right.
What are the actual Christmas logistics like for getting a horse ready to go on Stephen's Day in a massive race? Like, Christmas Day sounds like a normal work day if that's the case.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the horses, he will have gone. They'll leave on Christmas Eve, and I think Put the Kettle On will probably go for the Desert Orchid Chase as well the following day. And depending on ground at Leopardstown, we might have 1 or 2 others. But I think those 2 will go. They'll go on the 24th and stay over there. Obviously, I presume Rachel will go over the morning of the race. And then for us, yeah, it's a normal day for us. Now we try and get everything done as obviously as well as possible, as quickly as possible, to try and get everyone home a bit earlier. And then back in the evening just to feed up and check legs and everything. So it's a pretty normal day. I'd probably finish a little bit earlier in the morning. And then, yeah, Stephen's Day is pretty busy as well. Usually there's 3 meetings. Down Royal isn't on this year, so that makes it a little bit easier. So we've just Leopardstown and Limerick, but yeah, you need your lorries and your team of people to go to various places. So yeah, it's all pretty frantic at the start. Yeah.
What's on your Christmas list this year?
My Christmas list. In what sense now?
All of the aforementioned horses winning to be a start.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Well, that would definitely help. But yeah, look, just get them, try and get them there in one piece, and hopefully have a bit of luck. And look, you'd never hope to win all of them, but if you could get 1 or 2, you'd be delighted. It's so competitive. It's where everyone wants to win, and this is the country we're in. It's incredible, the standard of horse in the country.
But if the mayor is like the coolest girl in the class, where's put the kettle on? Because she just never stops amazing me in terms of what she does in her own kind of determined way, really unheralded where she's come from. She might be the one that surprised the teacher, maybe, I guess.
Yeah, she'd be the one down at the back of the class that you think isn't listening all day, and then suddenly gets great results. So yeah, and the one out that you're having to stop her sneaking out of school, basically. Yeah, she's a real messer. She's great. She's got a great attitude. She's tough out, and she's boxed her way from tipping away in rated novice chases during the summer, and. Yeah, she's just a great mare. She's great attitude. Like she just generally try to kill you whenever you go into the stable with her. But Andrea, who looks after her, has a great rapport with her. So, but she's a great mare. Yeah,
it is special as well. You mentioned Andrea there. Like, where's Andrea from? And that relationship that they have with those horses it's maybe it's not something we see on TV, and I know they probably do it a bit more in Britain, where they interview like the guy or the girl who looks after the horse, but like that bond is so important to the horse's performance as well. Yeah,
absolutely. She gives her an apple every day, so so I think I need to start doing that as well, because whenever I go in there, she turns her hindquarters to me and she's just threatening to kick me the whole time. So
it's a good judge of character.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. I wouldn't like to see her if she saw you with that jumper on coming into her, Johnny.
Enough about Ger. What about me?
Hey.
I don't know. It's spectacular that you've all from just these are all really good contenders, really proper chasers. I suppose what you always wanted to be.
Absolutely, yeah. Like I say, we feel very lucky to be where we are. We've got great support from our owners and great team of people working with us. We've got some lovely runners for the meetings, and fingers crossed we get a bit of luck. We've Aspartar there, Notebook. There's just the lads in the stairs chase. Just need a bit of luck.
Notebook, I thought he was brilliant at Naas, to be honest with you. I think Joseph's horse we spoke about was probably quite well fancied, and he won really well. How big of a test is this, without asking a pretty obvious question there?
Oh yeah, it's massive. The lads like Chacun Pour Soi has a savage reputation, and he's rated. What is he? Is it 8 or 10 pounds higher than us? I'm not sure. So, but again, you're into those 160s, 170s. We're a Grade 1 horse, and we just go and take our chance and see how it unfolds. Our lad has a great record around Leopardstown. He's in mighty form, and that's it. We'll take our chance and see.
Is it okay just to ask for something else, maybe left field, that wouldn't be running a Grade 1, or something for punters to look out for?
It's certainly okay to ask. I'm trying to think. I'm bearing in mind I'm probably one of the worst tipsters around. I thought Kavanagh's Corner was good with Emma Toomey in Ferry House the other day. He'll be in a veterans chase in Limerick. Look, we've plenty there going with. He's just off the top of my head. We've plenty going with chances. Look, we'll see. There's plenty for maiden hurdles with some really nice horses there. and the one I tell you will get beaten, have no doubt, you know, but there's plenty there, and we've been aiming towards this time of year, so hopefully we'll get a bit of luck.
Well, that is good information. Yeah, Henry,
Kavanagh's Corner wouldn't be the worst one to look out for sure.
Enjoy whatever little mini break there is for those few hours on Christmas Day, and then I hope you're a really successful week the following week. Thanks a million for making so much time for us.
Thank you. Thanks very
Henry.
much.
That's Henry Bromhead there. This is our Friday night racing remote roadshow Christmas special. We're in Christmas jumpers. It's for a good cause. It's for the Irish Cancer Society.
Remote roadshow.
You can text WEAR, WEAR, to 50300, and that'll donate €4 today. It's our Wear to Care initiative, and obviously the Irish Cancer Society have had to cancel a lot of their fundraising initiatives because you know what's going on. So no need to remind everybody.
Henry wasn't having the jumper.
I mean,
I'm
sure, look.
quite happy, and it's the first Christmas jumper I've ever bought.
Well, it's yours is a little bit better than mine.
Yeah, I'm genuinely thinking of possibly wearing it to a restaurant soon, just to see if it gets quite the same reaction as Put the Kettle On would have given it.
Put the Kettle On is going to Kempton.
She's going to Kempton for that novice race. Like,
Rachel Blackmore is going to Kempton.
for the I think that's you can't not back Monley each way in that race. If you're having a fiver each way this Christmas, he's basically, if he runs his race at the very worst, he'll be in the first three. And like, I know he's taken on horses, won the race twice, and it probably will be very hard to beat, but it's not there's not much depth to the race. As I said, if he were running in Leopardstown, he probably would struggle because it's so deep. But yeah, I think Rachel going there is, granted it's the King George, but like, she will be giving up some good rides, no doubt whatsoever, at Leopardstown. So yeah, take the hint. And Henry's I wouldn't say he's pessimistic, but he would be cautiously optimistic about his horses. I think by his standards, he was shouting from the rooftops there actually about his horse. I think he's very happy with them. If I'm going to read into anything, I think if you have a few quid in his horses, a little, maybe some sort of an each way lucky 15 for the big races, you won't go far wrong.
Right, but we all know the best racing is not at Kempton. It's actually right here in Ireland. Some top quality racing over Christmas and the New Year. Leopardstown starts on Stephen's Day. Limerick starts on Stephen's Day. They both run until the 29th. Then you've got Punchestown on December 31st and Tramore on January the 1st. With loads of Christmas and New Year racing coming up, get into racing at home. The hashtag to follow is every racing moment. Now, I'm delighted to say Aine O'Connor and Patrick Mullins are with us for the final part of the show. You're both very welcome. Patrick, I might start with you. So, Stephen's Day last year, you won a race on Faugheen. You won it so well, they've named the race after him.
Yeah, like it is one of my favourite memories ever. You know, it was one of the few races I can remember being nervous beforehand. I went down to it unaccepted earlier in the day, and I had to wait around for a bit. And just, you know, obviously he hadn't jumped maybe fantastic on his first start. You know, he was going novice chasing at quite a late age. He was stepping up into a grade one, and but like just in the race, everything went to plan. He jumped from fence to fence. He made one mistake. You know, Sam Crow joined us at the top of the hill, and we were cranking it up all the way down the hill into the straight. And I was trying to see who was going to crack first. And once we got into the straight, and Faugheen is seen the second last, he just attacked it and left Sam Crow for dead. And when we landed at the back of the last, the roar, just the noise, the wave of sound that hit us, I haven't experienced anything like it before. And all the way back up into Parade Ring, and in the Parade Ring, the Limerick crowd just gave us a fabulous reception. So it was definitely a magic day in my life, anyway.
Well, there's one thing I do give out about is that we don't have the.
You know about a lot of things, Johnny.
I do, but we don't have. If you just let me finish there, Patrick, admiring that map of the world, all the places you've been behind you. But if there's one thing in racing that has changed, we don't have as many people roaring horses home as we used to. But Patrick, Faugheen and Leopardstown and Limerick, he was like a throwback to another era.
It was. The only other time I've heard it was when Hurricane Fly won his last race in Leopardstown. I remember he got the similar reception. But it's just those older horses are the horses that get it. You know, they have to have been around for 5, 6, 7 years. They have to have been at the top, have lost it and come back. And that's the connection that Faugheen has with people. You know, that's his story. When he started his career, he was winning all around him. He wasn't as popular as he is now. after his trials and tribulations, and that's what makes him such a popular horse.
It's the humans who can relate to that as well. They're like that. Maybe they're getting on themselves, and they're like, you can still do it, and you can come back, because it's like everybody loves a comeback king.
Definitely. I mean, and that's where, it's harder to do that in the flat, or it's harder to do that with horses that have a shorter career. But in national hunts, those horses that are around for years and years, you get that connection, and that storyline, it'll only arise maybe once a decade, but we've been very lucky with Hurricane Fly and with Faheen.
Do you know where you're going over the Christmas period yet? Do you know what you're riding and when?
Well, seeing as that depends on Willie, no. I could be in Limerick, I could be in Leopardstown. We have horses entered in Kempton, so what I've learned is usually don't ask any questions and just wait and see the decks, and then you won't be thinking you're going anywhere you're not. But I mean, for example, last weekend it was 10:30 on Friday morning when we sort of realised that Shacken and Min were both going to run, and we all kind of presumed Shacken would probably go straight to Christmas. Willie decided otherwise, so Paul then had to make a decision whether he was going to ride Min or whether he was going to go down and ride Shacken. He decided to go down and ride Shacken, and it was probably after 11 o'clock before I found out I was riding Min, and that's just the way Willie works. It's all very last minute, but it seems to click into place for him more often than not.
And from your perspective, do you need more time, less time analysis at this stage of your career? You've obviously got reams of experience, so you're probably confident enough to get up on anything knowing what the lay of the land is supposed to be for that horse in that race.
Yeah, like sometimes the less time you have, the better. I'd never sat on Min at home. Like we'd been in the Curragh on Tuesday. I'd actually ridden Allaho work against Min. Paul had schooled Min and a few of the others on Thursday, so I haven't got to sit on him. But with horses like that, an experienced, seasoned campaigner, you don't need it. Now, the likes of Faheen, I had given him a school last year, and that was a help, because when I'd schooled him, I'd realised about how to ride him down to a fence. So it depends a bit on the horse, but with a novice, it might be more important to have sat on them. But with those older horses, it's not as important.
Okay, Anya, what's your crack over Christmas? What do you know what you're doing yet?
No, I'd be happy to just have a few rides, to be honest. I think I have one or two lined up, but not really sure yet where or when or what exactly I'm riding.
And how's that to get ready for?
It's grand. I'm quite lucky that I don't have to worry about weight or anything, so I can claim off bottom weight tomorrow if I'm told today I don't need to worry about anything like that. So I can still eat away over Christmas and prepare. I'm going to hopefully Ascot on Saturday, so I have to do the 5-day isolation, get back Sunday, then isolate for 5 days. So I'll hopefully be able to ride by St. Stephen's Day.
Well, tell us about Ascot.
I think I ride one for Harry Fry. Yeah.
Come on, tell us a bit more than that.
I ride one in a chase for Harry Fry.
You're JP McManus must love you. Is it a JP McManus horse?
Yeah, a horse called Drumcliff. I don't want to be taken off him now. I'm not even declared on him yet, so I'm like,
we're going up to Down Royal tomorrow for the Hunter's Chase, where Anya rides Stand Up and Fight for JP, and I ride Billaway. So that'll be a pre-Christmas match.
Stand Up.
It's a serious race in itself.
It's in the Fox Hunter, so it'll be. I think we were probably a little unlucky the last day, but Anya might disagree.
Yeah, I don't think you are.
Well, Patrick's record in Grade 1 chases is pretty good, it has to be said. Probably a little bit lucky the race went ahead maybe the last day, but Patrick's a lucky man. But Anya, your strike rate's unbelievable. So are you hopeful that it might continue on Saturday?
I hope so. I don't really know. I hope so. It's a horse I've ridden a few times before. I've ridden him 3 times and won on him twice. So I'm looking forward to getting my leg across him again.
Do you know roughly what you might be riding or where you might be then at Christmas? Because even Kavanagh's Corner was mentioned there, obviously providing his rider with her first winner, and we had her on recently, Emma, and so forth. But where might you be, do you think?
I honestly don't know, Johnny. I'm hoping to be in Limerick maybe for the Hunter's Chase, and then I'm just hoping I can pick up a few spares. I won on a horse for Shark in the bumper last week in Tremor, and he's going to go for a winner's bumper, hopefully. So hoping I'll keep my leg across him as well.
Did you get married, by the way? Because the last time we had you on, you and Slippers were planning like this big Ashford Castle kind of Hello Magazine type operation, which I presume didn't happen.
No, still only the one ring on the finger. No. It was down to coronavirus. We couldn't. Well,
that's a relief anyway. At least it was down to something that was out of their control.
Well, I mean, it's a dangerous territory there, asking questions you don't know the answer to.
Patrick Mullins.
That would have been fairly awkward now if I said no.
You should have just made it up, just to scunner him for a change.
Patrick Mullins will be, I presume, invited or on the afters list, or
I certainly hope so.
No, he'll be invited. Depends on how tomorrow goes.
Put him at one of them, Put him at one of them tricky tables, like put him beside Frank Berry or something like that, where they have to mix and match them at the tables and so forth.
No, I think a table full of single women now, he'll be happy.
Frank or no, definitely not Frank at this stage. You're on about Patrick, I think.
Patrick.
Anyway, moving on.
Yeah,
please.
That's going to be a good wedding.
Good man, Johnny. Yeah. And what about the racing at Christmas?
Well, Patrick, are you going to be like look at the list in this 14 novice chase? You must want to go there.
It's a cracking race, and you know it always has been. Even when it was a Grade 2, we used to have horse going down there like Sir de Champs. Album Photo fell at the last in it one year. It deserved it probably deserved a step up to Grade 1. To be fair, it's had Grade 1 horses winning it all the time. The most obvious candidate from our place is Asterion Forlonge. He was very slick on his debut in Punchestown. Obviously, he jumped dramatically to his right in Cheltenham at the Festival over hurdles. Now, he'd won in Leopardstown before that in Grade 1 and had jumped a little bit right, but not as dramatic as it was in Cheltenham. I think probably in Cheltenham, down the back straight, you're continuously turning. It's nearly like a half circle, the back straight. You're always turning a little left, and that probably exaggerated it. Whereas in Leopardstown, when it was just a straight line down the back straight, it didn't seem to be as much of a problem. So he did jump to his right at the last two in Punchestown, but again, not terribly. And for me, he ticks all the boxes. This is going right-handed. He handles soft ground. He jumps well, 2.5 miles, no problem. He's going to be a very exciting horse, and this would look tailor-made for him, to be honest.
Do you know, I know Blackbow has entered as well. Do you know what his plan is? I thought he was, if it's one, I think this is the only time I've ever criticised your dad was that he didn't go over fences with him a lot earlier because he was getting on a bit in life. What is he, going on 8 now? I thought he was absolutely spectacular at Navan. He really was, and he won in English point to point. He's a beautiful horse. He's one of the most good-looking horses in our yard. He trots like a proper dressage horse. He completely has such an extended trot. It's extraordinary to look at. He was just disappointing last year as a novice herder, and he got a bad fall one day, going to maybe beat Captain Guinness, maybe just be beaten by him, and it just seemed to knock his confidence a bit. But since we school him at home, he was electric, and the way he jumps, he's probably more of a 2-miler, because just let him at it, let him, when those horses, if they really jump quick and jump slick, if you're trying to take them back and give away the ground that you're making over fences, you're not playing to their strengths. And a lot of those stowaways, even though they look like 3-milers, they're actually more, a lot of them are 2.5, 2-milers. I mean, Champagne Fever is probably more of a 2-miler. And this fella could be something similar. I imagine he'd be sticking to 2 miles for the moment. Will he go to Leopardstown, do you think?
I would imagine that'd be the most likely place for him. I think he's better on better ground, and Leopardstown, like Limerick is always the heaviest ground of the winter, and Leopardstown is always the best ground of the winter. So he won a Grade 2 bumper in Leopardstown. So I imagine we go back to where you won.
Look, again, from the outside, I'm wondering, I see the same horses entered for the novice chase in both Limerick and Leopardstown in the same day, and what goes into the decision making. Joseph O'Brien was on with us a little bit earlier on. One of the things is obviously who declares where, and that kind of, there's a, people trying to avoid or people trying to attack on the basis of that. But obviously the ground bit of information and how that changes up until, I suppose, the last minute, that's when these decisions finally get made.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, people are probably going to be trying to duck and dive on Vial a little bit. But these two races, one is 2.5, one is 2 miles. 2 miles on good ground compared to 2.5 on soft ground. There's also a 3 mile race later on the week on good ground. So you're trying to split them up. Then you might be thinking about jockeys. I mean, Willie was always very keen to have Ruby on certain horses. So he might, like Willie's not afraid to run 2 or 3 or 4 horses in one race, but he might keep 2 apart so he can have Ruby on both of them. That's probably the same now with Paul. And then you want to see how they work, how they scope. Owners come into it, the likes of JP or Giggan Sound back in the day, they have their horses, so they're trying to give themselves the best opportunity of winning as many races. So that all has to be put into the melting pot as well. And that's probably why Willie doesn't make any decisions until he has to, because then until all the ingredients are definite, then he makes a definite decision.
All the available information.
Yeah, like I think that, to be honest, Patrick, that race that Ken Boy is in, to me looks like it is going to be one of the deepest renewals we've seen. Just even on the show today, listen to a couple of horses that I didn't even expect to run it, just adding to the allure of it. And what sort of chance would he have? Obviously would have to reverse form and present in Percy, but he did run a bit fresh in his first run back.
I mean, look, he clearly blew up on his first run back. He settled great and he made one or two mistakes, but he hasn't seemed to have recaptured his form from 2 years ago just yet. 2 years ago was that particularly dry winter, and perhaps that played a part in why he was so good that year. But we're happy with it at home. Even last year he was behind Delta Work and presenting Percy at various times, so he's going to be up against it, I think. Manila Indo is probably the one to beat. He's had 2 runs. He's a younger horse. He's improving. So he's going to be hard to beat. Champ might come over. I think Leopardstown will suit him because in Leopardstown there's only 2 fences in the last 5 furlongs. Say if you were in Punchtown, there's 4 fences in that time, where there's only 2 here. So I think that probably suits him because he's not the most natural jumper. And then Delta Work and presenting Percy set a very solid standard. So it's a fascinating renewal.
And it's an else yourself. You've ridden some very nice bumper horses of late as well.
Yeah, we've had a great spell with the bumper horses. Reality Check got beaten at Fairy House, and I thought he was very, very good. So I was kind of wondering, Jesus, does that mean the rest of them aren't maybe where I thought they were? But to be fair to Reality Check, I did manage to get Fernie Hollow and Appreciate beaten on that weekend last year. So I think he'll probably turn up in Leopardstown this year at Christmas. I think we might go for the 2.5 mile bumper with him, same as Appreciate It, and I'd be giving him another chance. I still think he could be one of the top bumper horses. And then I'm not sure we'll have much for the winner's bumper. A lot of the horses that won recently, the likes of Take Tea, Brandy Love, Kill Crut, we'll probably wait until after Christmas for them. There's good bumpers there in the springtime, like the at the Dublin Race Festival, and we're probably looking towards Cheltenham with all of those as well. Kill Crut, he could come back, but he's quite a light-framed horse, and I don't think we want to rush him or be hard on him, so we're just probably going to give him a good, easy time and look for something after Christmas.
Those 2 bumper horses, or those bumper horses you meant from last year, will Appreciate It and Fernie Hollow, will they turn up, do you think?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's definitely races for them there. There's also the entries today for the Lawlers, the Lawlers race in Naas, so that's a possibility as well. But we have loads of novices. Blue Lord is another one who could go up to Leopardstown. He was very impressive. Well, he wasn't very impressive in Punchtown, but I thought it was a very good performance because he's a completely new horse into our yard, and we weren't sure what to expect. But I think there's a lot of improvement to come from him. So if Blue Lord turns up, he's worth keeping an eye on.
Anya, we had you in, I think it was almost exactly a year ago at this stage, and we were talking to you about your work with race and then also juggling that with your career as a jockey as well. It's obviously been going sensationally well in terms of finding the right balance and managing your time properly to the point now where you're winning the ladies' standings at the moment. So how did you manage to get that right? What was maybe it's the bounce from appearing on Friday Night Racing, of course. That's a real
Yeah, I was actually laughing this morning because it's probably exactly a year ago since I've been on, because it was the time I crashed my car, I hit the sheep. So
that's right,
I was driving in extra slow this morning, not to have history repeat itself, keeping the sheep safe on the car. But it's fine. I spend my time kind of living out of a bag. I've got 4 different bags in the back of my car that I'm pulling clothes from and flying in and out of work. So I'll ride out in the mornings, come into work at 9, have a shower, get into the office, and then about 11:30 I could end up going out to ride another bit of work. So I end up taking early and late lunches and kind of working through lunch sometimes to get racing. But at the moment it's working. Thankfully, I can balance both. They're very good to me here in race. They allow me to do both. And yeah, it seems to be going well. At the moment, we have junior academies on, so I have 10 kids outside. I'm in the office at the moment, and there's 10 kids outside waiting for me to hurry on to go out and show them the horses. So yeah, I do a bit of everything.
Right, and it's kind of a good thing for everybody to see you doing a little bit of everything, because it turns out in racing, and particularly in National Hunt, you kind of need to do a bit of everything, right?
Well, as an amateur, you do anyway. I, at no stage, was busy enough that I could just have that as my full-time job. It was fine. Riding out in the yard was great, and I loved that. And I really do love being around the horses all the time. But this opportunity presented itself, and it was there. It was handy. It was working out. It's across the road from Paddy Roach's, where I ride out 6 days a week, 5 days a week. Paddy's moving his snowman, distracting me. I'm quite lucky. They both balance each other well.
Before we get to the real hero of the show, namely Patrick's snowman, are you flaunting yourself for more rides at Christmas, Anya? There's that snowman. Yeah, are you available for more?
100%. Yeah, I'm happy to. Yeah, definitely. As I said, even I have quite a few left in my 21 professional rides. So even if there's some lightweights and hurdles or handicaps, chases, I'm happy to take them.
Right. Well, the news is out. There you go. Folks,
the news is out.
we wish you both a very happy Christmas. Patrick, it sounds like you might be in Limerick. Am I reading between the lines there?
I'd love to be. I mean, I'd love to ride a steering, but I know Paul is very sweet on Energy. He thinks could be a far superior chaser than he was a hurdler. And ever since he schooled him the very first morning, he said this horse would be 2 mile, and we wouldn't have thought he was a 2 miler at all. But like I was saying, the way he jumps, Paul was thinking he could be very good. So I'm hoping maybe Paul chooses to ride Energy, and I might get to go down on Asterion. But I suppose Asterion is the proven grade 1 horse, so perhaps Paul will end up down in Limerick. I mean, Ruby went down to Limerick there one year with Geraghty. So
that's right.
I'll happily go wherever Paul doesn't want to go.
Can you get some sort of a snowman ventriloquism type thing going on and ask the snowman for his Christmas nap there?
No, he's a mute snowman, I'm afraid.
Can you impart what he might say as his Christmas nap via yourself?
Christmas, like I said, I think Sharjah's someone said he was 10-1 for the Christmas hurdle today. He's won it the last 2 years. It's going to be dry ground. It's going to be a strong gallop. I think he's a huge price. I'd be very disappointed if Reality Check gets beaten again. I thought he just blew up the last day. He stopped the race a furlong down and going to win, and he just blew up and got tired, which sometimes happens with the horses that work very well at home. They aren't as fit, and when they get to the track, because they're not working as hard, say, as a horse that maybe has less ability. I know Champagne Fever got beaten first time out, and like I said, the 2 horses last year did as well. So I wouldn't give up on him just yet.
Look at Anya's face. She's absolutely petrified he's going to be asked about Drumcliff again. So what do you make of Drumcliff on Saturday?
Oh, you found out the name. Well done.
Your Christmas nap, which starts on Saturday.
Christmas nap. Oh, geez. You'd be stupid to try and avoid Envoy Allen.
Stop. That'll be 5s on. Yeah.
Yeah, great. You're still winning.
Best of luck on Saturday, obviously.
Thanks.
Listen, happy Christmas to you both, and thanks a million for being part of the show today. Cheers.
Thanks very much.
Really appreciate that. Right, that is it. We've had a wild ride. Plenty of information coming your way.
I think that was very informative. Actually, I think we got lots of horses there, and an insight into the madness of trying to know where you're going at Christmas. But some
last minute, you got to go.
For certain, some of the horses we'll mention will win, and some of them will win at good odds. I think there because we got some very good insight, and I think they're all buzzing to get going as well.
Yeah. All right. So our guests today: Joseph O'Brien, Barry Geraghty, Henry de Bromhead, Aine O'Connor, Patrick Mullins,
and the Snowman,
and Johnny Ward. in a Christmas jumper. Stay tuned to OTB for all your racing coverage right across the Christmas racing period. Results, tips, news and interviews on the radio and on the OTB Sports app. And on New Year's Day, we're going to bring you a 2-hour best of featuring all the very best racing content that we've done across the year. As for the next couple of weeks itself, you've got the Leopardstown and Limerick Christmas festivals from the 26th of December to the 29th, then Punchestown on December 31st and Tramore on January the 1st. Hopefully next year we'll be at all of these. With all that Christmas and New Year racing coming up, get into racing at home. The hashtag is every racing moment. We'll see you again real soon. Enjoy the racing and happy Christmas, everybody. Thanks for being with us every Friday. Cheers.
Friday Night Racing
on Off the Ball.
Brought to you by Horse Racing Ireland. Love every racing moment. Visit hri.ie.